Well, you know what? I think maybe the Twitter shot across the bow when they censored POTUS is gonna come back to bite all of Silicon Valley in the butt. So stick with me, folks. We're going to talk about that and lots of other things. So hang in there. I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and just lots of things to share with you tonight. And this is the first one. I'm not going to play all this because it's like 24 minutes long, 25 minutes long. Really good presser, though, with Kellyanne Conway. So you need to watch this because she does such a good job. She addresses several things, and I'll tell you what, she puts those reporters in their place, especially CNN. Oh man, she really goes after CNN. So definitely one that you want to watch. And if you don't want to watch it on Twitter, if you go here and you click this, it'll put it over on YouTube. So you can watch it there if you'd rather watch that. So it is on YouTube. This would be, I think the title is It's Always Fun to Catch a Leaker. And she talks about that. That's kind of near the end where she talks about that. But really good presser. I wanted you to have access to that because it's well worth watching, everybody. And, we're going to kind of continue on from yesterday's video. And I wanted to show you some things that are happening. First of all, maybe by the time you see this, I'm not sure exactly when it's going to come out, but President Trump is going to do an executive order that's going to affect all these social media companies. I don't know what it's going to be. My thoughts right now are that maybe he's going to do something about the Section 230 immunity, because if they're going to be censoring, which I think they're all going to be participating in before the upcoming election, for the next few months at least, I think that maybe he's going to say, if you're going to take a political stance, you're no longer going to have Section 230 immunity. And that opens the door for all kinds of lawsuits that I don't think any of them want. So they're going to have to make a choice. And I know I saw today a video clip of Mark Zuckerberg saying that Facebook does not censor people. That's a lie, because they've done it to me like twice in the last week. James O'Keefe, and he's with Project Veritas, if you don't know that. They've had several undercover projects they've worked on in Silicon Valley, with all these tech giants. And there's a lot more that's going to be coming out. He's getting ready to release them. I think he's kind of waited and been collecting them all along so that they could wait until this time right now when the censorship gets so bad that they censor the President of the United States. That's bad. And they said that, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, so James O'Keefe here says, but how exactly does Twitter know who to shadow ban? Parsing data and writing algorithms according to engineers. We found out they flagged Trump supporters with profiles even mentioning God, guns, or showing the American flag as bots. So here's the clip. I'm not going to play it, but again, I'll leave all the links down below and you can watch that. But really, essentially, that's what they do. They look for those kinds of things. They have certain terminology that they go through and they're listening for, or, the AI picks up, and that's what they're trying to point out. And I'm pretty sure that in the videos that I have, that they do the same thing with the videos, that they pick up certain words. And I would venture to guess that a lot of the words Twitter's looking for and Facebook's looking for are the same ones that YouTube looks for. And they all are, kind of targeting people who talk too much about God or guns or American flags or patriots, words like that. That's how they're telling who to pick on. It's becoming something that has to be addressed. And that's why, like I said, I'm not sure what POTUS's executive order is going to be, and you might already know it by now. But I kind of think that it may be dealing with the Section 230 immunity, because that I think he can take away. He can put stipulations on it, I believe. I'm not sure. But I know that he's got to do things that are legal for him to do, and that does limit what he can do because he's the executive branch. He's not the legislative branch. But anyway, James O'Keefe also says the jig is up. Silicon Valley is being exposed. Next month, and that would be June, I assume, we start releasing new tapes. Sign up for censorship-free updates at Veritas Update, which would be a nice one to sign up for so you can keep track, and they'll send them to you. So yeah, there's going to be a lot more things that they're going to be putting out, and I'm anxious to see those because there's so much that they've been able to acquire. They've done a great service for us, the American people. So again, I'll leave the links to these down below, and you can get them and then sign up for the update so that you get the emails about what they're sending out. Because I think it's going to be very interesting. I think they've got a lot stored up that they've just been waiting to get out there. So this is an interesting article because it's from Jonathan Turley, and you've heard me talk about him before. He is a legal scholar, and he is a Democrat, but he seems to be one of the more fair-minded people, and he looks at the legal situation more than he looks at the politics. So I always appreciate that in his perspectives. And so this came out on May 27th, and the title of it is Goose Meet Gander, Executive in Charge of Twitter Rule Enforcement Under Fire for Anti-Trump Postings. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we talked about President Trump's tweet being fact-checked, and I put that in quotes, fact-checked, and it took you to a site that talked about CNN and the Washington Post, and it's like, yeah, all the anti-Trump people, that's who you want fact-checking it. Well, guess what? The person who's in charge of this is about the same, okay? He might as well be working for the Washington Post and the New York Times and all of those, because that's the attitude he has. And it says, there's a new controversy swirling around Twitter's new rules allowing the removal or labeling of tweets that the company deems false or misleading. I have a column out this morning criticizing Twitter's warning attached to recent tweets by President Donald Trump. However, this controversy concerns the person who has said that he is in charge of, quote, developing and enforcing Twitter's rules. Twitter's, quote, head of site integrity, Yeol Roth. And actually, that Kellyanne Conway presser, she mentions him. She actually gives you like his Twitter handle and everything, so you can go and check him out. Critics have highlighted fairly extreme postings from Roth calling Trump and his supporters the N-word. Well, a different N-word, but this N-word. I do not agree that the problem is Roth's personal views or postings. The problem is his role and the rules at Twitter. The problem is anyone exercising this power of speech regulation. Indeed, as this controversy grew around Roth, Kathy Griffin is the latest poster to face calls for removal for effectively calling for Trump to you-know-what himself. Again, Griffin should be allowed to post such hateful thoughts, and the rest of the world should be allowed to denounce her, again, for her unhinged humor. And he goes on to say that really the problem is the existence of this type of a job even at Twitter is what's really the problem. The problem is not, this guy, he has a right to an opinion, this Yeol Roth. He has his own right to have his opinion. But he's then, a very obviously biased person, and he's put in charge of deciding what is or isn't true. And that's just what's wrong. That this is the kind of person that they put in charge of it, because he's obviously biased, and that's up to him. He's free to make his own opinions known and all that. So yeah, that's why Kathy Griffin in the last video, that's why she was trending, and I found that out after I recorded it. But so that's what is really the situation. And this whole thing he's talking about, the problem that we have is really that this entire department or this person is put in charge of that there is one person in charge of that position. It really shouldn't be there because, and this is why I say that I think maybe Trump is going to be addressing the Section 230 rule. Because of the Section 230, they really aren't supposed to be censoring posts. And that was part of the kind of agreement that they had when this law was put into action back in the 90s. It seems so long ago, doesn't it? I'm getting old. But anyway, so this is a good article here. He lays it down. It's fairly short. It's not a real long one. But it's a good post to read. I'll leave the link down below. Well, this is the guy right here, Yeol Roth. And he goes through and he has some things. They're trying to say that anybody who questions the COVID narrative is a bot. I just think it's really kind of odd, but he was saying that some of it was not necessarily true. I don't know. I can't imagine working for a company and having such, voicing such strong opinions and then being put in charge of the integrity division. Yeah, but he did say here, we've seen no evidence to support the claim that nearly half of the accounts tweeting about COVID-19 are likely bots. Why would you even say that? NPR said that. I was like, really? That is so crazy. It's very interesting going through on this. There are some people who have made some things, some posts that show some of his other posts that are more dramatic, and of course, he doesn't mind talking about some of his sexual proclivities and a lot of his reading material that he likes. So let's just say it that way, okay? And so there are some things like that. Now, I didn't see a lot of them here, but if you go through, you can search, an individual's feed, and there were a lot of posts that I would not want that person ruling what's good or bad for me. So anyway, that's the guy right there. That's the one who decided that, Trump needed to be fact checked. And the really bad thing about the fact checking is that us normal people, I'm not sure we can do that. I don't think we can do it. No, see, we can't do that. But if they're a blue check person, the blue check people can go through and they can say something needs to be fact checked. It's just so wrong. So wrong. And most of the blue check people are Democrats. Or liberals at least. Well, anyway, James O'Keefe had this post too. He says, President Donald Trump is right to slam Twitter's fact checks on his tweets, but that's just the tip of the 2020 iceberg. We're trying to get this kind of people to not show up. It's a product thing we're working on. That's what this lady from Twitter says. Yeah, so no, we're not just deplorables and irredeemables now. We're these kind of people. Isn't that nice to know they think so highly of us? It's just really sad. It really is that they look down their nose at us. And I think this is another Ben Garrison. I think this just portrays it. This is an older one, but this is it right here. This is what's going on. They are this, and they're treating us like this. This is what they want us to have to use for our social media and everything. I think that's just so spectacular. That is exactly what's going on with free speech. So let's move on from, the same old and the, interference that we're getting. But President Trump posted this today. Texas Supreme Court, lack of immunity to COVID-19 alone, not enough to vote by mail. Big win in Texas on the dangerous mail-in voting scam. And, of course, this is the reason he was fact-checked in the first place, because he said mail-in voting lends itself to fraud big time, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But this is really big here with Texas, that Texas is talking about, so you're not immune to COVID. That's just not enough to require you to vote by mail. Now, again, this is not saying that an occasional person who is too ill maybe to go to the polls, like my mom, she can't stand in line like that, and that just would not be good for her. But it's okay for somebody like that. It's okay for somebody they're not going to be at their own home state polling place. It's okay that they get a mail-in ballot. I'm not saying mail-in ballots are always bad, but the problem we have with mail-in ballots is they can be abused easily. And Texas here has taken this nice step. I mean, this is really a great step for Texas, saying, sorry, that's not an excuse. And I did this meme because, in the Star-Spangled Banner, we are the land of the free and the home of the brave. And frankly, if people are too chicken to go out and vote, then maybe this isn't their home. Maybe they shouldn't be voting if they're too scared to go out and to vote, because there are a lot of precautions you can make. Oh my goodness. Okay, you can wear your mask, which of course they wear to the supermarket. Oh, they wear to the liquor store. They wear to go do other things. So why can't they wear them when they go to vote? And if they're worried about getting something on their hands, put gloves on. You get those little latex gloves or the nitrile gloves, and then you're okay. And then as soon as you get out, you rip them off, and you don't have to even touch them. You can toss them away, and look, no germs. So they're just not even thinking about that. And if they want to, a lot of places let them vote early. So then they wouldn't even be around a bunch of people. It would be a much smaller line. And for the primaries, they can try it out. They can find what works and what doesn't, because then in November, they'll be able to implement it. And the thing is, do you know how far away November is? I mean, this isn't even June yet. So to say that we know that by November, things are not going to be back to normal enough and the virus is still going to be too prevalent, that's just like, do you know the future? Can you see the future? Sure, I'm not saying don't have some contingency plans, but there's no reason now to be saying people need to have mail-in votes all across the United States. Well, the reason they're doing that, obviously, is this. Look at this. This is kind of funny because this came out, look at this, November 3rd of 2016. So when they said, Trump has no reason to say that there could be voter fraud with these mail-in ballots. Well, duh, look at this. Questions of voter fraud after man finds 83 ballots shipped to a single address in his apartment complex. And guess what? It was in California. I'm sure you're surprised about that, aren't you? But yeah, they were all sent to the same address where a single 89-year-old woman lives. And so this is a very obvious instance of that happening. So this in and of itself debunks CNN and MSNBC and Washington Post and all the rest of them who are saying, oh, there's no examples of voter fraud. It just doesn't happen. 83 ballots. And that was one instance. Can you imagine how many times maybe there were slip-ups like that? How many would it take to throw an election? It all depends on where it takes place, So this is something that could be very severe. You get 10 of these incidents happening, you got 830 ballots. That could really swing an election. So I wanted to point that out to you. And yes, that was back on November 3rd of 2016. So even then, we knew that these ballots, these mail-in ballots, were not a good thing. How would you do that? Well, the interesting thing is, he says that they all had, if you go down here, he says that I think this is spooky, all the different names, none we recognize, all at one address. So they had different names. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why voter fraud can be rampant if you have mail-in votes on a large scale. Now, again, I'm not saying one person here or one person there who needs to do a mail-in ballot. That's different. But when you're talking about shipping these mail-in ballots to everyone or even to all registered voters, you're going to get some people who died and are still registered. So, it's just one of those things. It really does open itself up. If you don't have to present some kind of ID, then how are you going to know who is filling out that ballot? How are you going to know how it was done? So I do think he had a real reason for what he said. And this is one of the reasons. And there are many cases like this. Now I want to give you a little bit of an update on the church situation in Chicago. So I'm going back to this lawyer here. He's the one who is the lawyer. What is it? Liberty? Just a minute. Liberty Counsel is the law firm he works for. And they've been doing a lot of these lawsuits for the churches. And he says, victory in Minnesota. No Pharaohs there. I think he's referring to how Pharaoh hardened his heart. And when Moses asked, wouldn't let the people go. So I think that's what he's referring to there. The article notes that after President Trump's proclamation of churches as, quote, essential, as of May 23rd, only 8 states continue to treat religious worship unequally, with the most populous state, California, among those 8. Liberty Counsel Chairman Matt Stavers said, the First Amendment is our first freedom in the Bill of Rights precisely because houses of worship are essential to the success of America. These oppressive orders against churches and houses of worship must end. The best way to honor the men and women who died for our freedom is to live free. Freedom is on the march. We will not rest until victory is complete and the Constitution returns to all 50 states, or 57 according to former President Obama. Then he pointed out this one. He says, I don't want to be one to say, Lord, your house is not important, Wilson says. A surprisingly fair and in-depth article from Time magazine regarding our case defending Pastor Kevin Wilson in Virginia. Pastor Kevin's church does not have online capabilities, and he had the audacity to allow 16 worshipers spread far apart in the church's 300-seat sanctuary. Now he is charged criminally and faces 1 year in jail. The article also discusses the welcomed intervention of President Trump, Vice President Pence, Attorney General Barr, and the DOJ in our case supporting Pastor Kevin and Lighthouse Church. Please continue to pray for victory in Virginia and justice for Pastor Kevin. Time article linked in first comment. So that one too. Again, I'm going to link to these, but I don't know how it's going to come out, whether you'll be able to see them or not. I apologize for that, but if you have a Facebook account, you can. If you don't have one, you can maybe make a throwaway one just so you can go in and see such things. I don't know. But then on this one, this is an important fact that's happening. We are at the Supreme Court. Minutes ago, we filed an emergency application with Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, asking him to issue an immediate injunction to block Chicago Mayor Heavyhand from making good on her threat to destroy the Romanian churches of Chicago via summary abatement. We've been working around the clock on this ever since the churches received the summary abatement threat on Saturday. And if you remember in that other video of mine about the churches, the summary abatement meant basically the government could come in and tear down the entire church without having to go through any other legal recourse. I mean, they could just come in and do it, because that's what summary abatement is. In reality, by hardening her heart and making such a grossly unconstitutional threat, even after President Trump's declaration of churches as essential, Mayor Heavyhand has given us the opportunity to appeal to the Supreme Court much earlier than we could have done otherwise. Please pray that our application reaches fertile soil and receives immediate and positive action. It still takes a major miracle to get SCOTUS involved in a case, especially at what is still a very early stage of the litigation. There will be several more chances down the road as well. Our prayer is that in His perfect timing, God will eventually provide a victory so big and so miraculous that no one will doubt His authorship. Pray with us. Press release and 100-page application if you care for some light afternoon reading, linked in the first comment. And so I will put the link to that down below so you'll be able to see it, because it's hard sometimes going through and finding them when they have so many comments on Facebook, because they do it weird now. And then he had this one. This is the last one he had for today. Supreme Court update. Justice Kavanaugh has just entered an order requiring Governor Pritzker to respond to our emergency injunction application by Thursday, tomorrow, at 8 p.m. And that'll be the day that you watch this, I think. At the same time, in another emergency petition arising out of the Ninth Circuit, handled by my good friend Paul M. Jana and his colleagues, Justice Kagan has ordered Governor Newsom to respond also by 8 p.m. tomorrow night. This is a great sign, and lightning fast. Most of these early-stage injunction petitions die without any response or action. This move by Kavanaugh and Kagan indicates strong interest by the court to at least look at this issue before another Sunday passes. There is still a long road ahead, and we are still in need of a miracle. Pray without ceasing. So I would encourage you, if you're a praying person, pray for them, because this is pretty big, and it is something that the Supreme Court is going to need to address sooner or later. I just hope it's sooner, than later, because it needs to be something that is addressed right now, and that churches can open. And it's more than just being about whether churches can open or not. It's really about our constitutional rights to be able to do what our Bill of Rights tell us we can do, those rights that we have been given. So that's the important part about it. And then I just have a few more to share with you. This one is former Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein statement on upcoming June 3rd testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Oh, yeah, they're going to bring in Rod Rosenstein and put him under oath. Yay. Well, this is his statement. He says, I am grateful to Chairman Graham for the opportunity to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee about information that has come to light concerning the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act process and the FBI's counterintelligence decision-making as a result of completed inquiries by Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz and ongoing reviews by U.S. Attorneys John Durham and Jeff Jensen. During my 3 decades of service in law enforcement, I learned firsthand that most local, state, and federal law enforcement officers deserve the high confidence people place in them, but also that even the best law enforcement officers make mistakes and that some engage in willful misconduct. Independent law enforcement investigations, judicial review, and congressional oversight are important checks on the discretion of agents and prosecutors. We can only hope to maintain public confidence if we correct mistakes, hold wrongdoers accountable, and adopt policies to prevent problems from recurring. And she also, this is her handwriting and her highlighting, that she said 17 inaccuracies and omissions from the Horowitz report. So it's going to be interesting. That's his statement, and I don't know. It doesn't really say a whole lot, except stuff that I don't believe. He can write really well, and he makes it sound like he is so righteous, but we know that he's up to his eyeballs in this, so we'll see what happens on that. But yeah, that's exciting. So June 3rd, that's going to be a fun one to watch. I want to see that. And then I wanted to show you this just in case you happen to live in one of those states where things are, not opening like they really should, or where your governors are being unreasonable about things. So this is an article you can go through, and it talks about how to sue your governor. And, if you want to get involved in that, it talks about what you need to do and go through the different steps and how to find an attorney, those kinds of things. So I thought it had some good ideas there. It's something to keep in mind, might be something to bookmark, because you never know when you might need it. I played on the research boards for a bit tonight. And this one right here, I thought was kind of interesting, because about 7 in 10 Democratic daters would not consider being in a relationship with a Trump voter. So if you're single and you're out there dating, you can breathe a sigh of relief, because they don't want to be involved with you. I just think it's kind of funny that the liberals tout themselves as being so accepting and so tolerant, and they say the Republicans are intolerant. But when you look at this, who's really the intolerant ones? Look at these. They would not, this is the amount of wouldn't date somebody. And look, they wouldn't date somebody who voted for Trump. This is they wouldn't date somebody who's a Republican. This is they wouldn't date somebody who voted for Clinton. And this is they wouldn't date somebody who's a Democrat. So, very interesting. Who are the intolerant people? Look at that. But you don't see that in the news. And this was back a little bit. I don't remember exactly the date of it. Oh, it was April 24th of 2020, it says up there. So anyway, I just thought it was an interesting chart. And the last thing I want to show you, this meme just cracked me up. Chia leg. The Joe Biden chia leg. Oh my goodness. But what this guy, Andy Simmons here, let me go back to his channel and show you. He's got some good songs I think you might be interested in hearing. They're parodies. And this one right here, Pelosi went up to D.C. It was 3 months ago, but still it's pretty funny. And this creepy, hey creepy Joe, I watched these three and this one. They were really good. So he's got a good voice and he goes through and does that. I think it's kind of sad he only has 10.7K subscribers. We need to give him a lot of subs here. But yeah, watch the Pelosi one and then these two, The Power of Trump. I think that's pretty funny. It's to the Power of Love, song, but it's really good. And they've got a couple of people. The one lady talks in this that it was really interesting what she had to say because she wasn't a Trump supporter. I think she was a Democrat. And she said, if you'd ever told me that I was going to be at a rally and I was going to be really excited about it, and then she said, I would have told you were way off base. And then lo and behold, there she was at a Trump rally. So maybe she wasn't Democrat. I don't remember. My brain is kind of going through a lot because I did a lot of researching today. So anyway, I wanted to leave that with you. Give him some YouTube love and watch some of his videos, okay? So that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.